In this video, we're going to be taking a look on pages Access 34 and 35, in which we're going to sort and find data. The Access Sort and Find features are handy tools that help you quickly organize and find data in a table or query datasheet. If you take a look on page Access 35, Table B1 describes the Sort and Find buttons on the Home tab. Besides using these buttons, you can also click the list arrow on the field name in the datasheet and then click a sorting option. Taking a look at step 1 on page Access 34 tells us that we want to double-click the Tours by Category query in the navigation pane to open up the datasheet. So we click on the Tours by Category, and of course it is now opened up. The Tours by Category query currently sorts tours by category, then by tour name. And what we're going to be doing with this datasheet is that we're going to add the duration field to this query, and then we're going to change the sort order for the records. Step 2 tells us that we want to click on our View button and click on the top half of the View button to switch to the Design view. And then we're going to double-click the Duration field. And that's in the Tours field list. Now when you double-click a field in the field list, Access inserts it in the next available column in the query grid. You can also drag a field from a field list to a specific column of the query grid. Now, to select a field in the query grid, you can also click its field selector. And of course, the field selector is this right up here. And it is the thin gray bar above each field in the query grid. And of course, a quick tip on there, you can drag a selected field selector to the right or left to move the column to a new position in the query grid. And you can do that just by selecting it and then clicking and dragging this. And of course, you notice the line moves from left to right, and that will show you where it's going to be placed at. But if you want to delete a field from a query, all you'd have to do is click the field selector and then press your delete key on your keyboard. Deleting a field from a query does not delete it from the underlying table. The field is only deleted from the query's logical view. Now currently, the Tours by Category query is sorted by category, which we see here, and then by tour name, as we see here, because Access evaluates sort orders from left to right. So of course the order here that we see that in this query grid is actually very important because it goes from left to right. Now we want to change the sort order so that the records sort first by tour start date and then by price. And so to do this, we take a look at step 3. And step 3 tells us that we want to click ascending in the category sort cell. So here's our category list here, and we're going to click ascending here. Once we do that, we're going to click the list arrow, and of course we have the options of ascending, descending, and not sorted. And it tells us here that we want to click not sorted. Then next, we're going to click ascending in the tour name sort cell. We're going to click on the list arrow and change this to not sorted. Then next we're going to double click the tour start date sort cell on there, and that is going to specify an ascending sort. And then next, the price sort cell, we're going to double click it, and that will make it ascending as well. Now, even though that we have not changed the order that's on here, the sort is still going to be from left to right. Now, the category is no longer sorted, and the tour name is no longer sorted, so it's going to first be sorted by the tour start date and then by the price, because those are the ones that are going to be sorted by. So even though that category is still going to be the first one in the list on how it's going to be displayed, it's going to be first sorted ascending by the tour start date and then by the price. So it's still from left to right, but it depends on where the sorts are at on there. And of course the records are now set to be sorted, as we said, in the ascending order, first by tour start date and then by the values in the price field. Now, because sort orders always work from left to right, you may need to rearrange the fields before applying a sort order that uses more than one field. To move a field in the query design grid, click its field selector and then drag it to the left or to the right. So you'll have to determine how you want this to be organized. Next, in step 4, we're going to go up here to the results field and we're going to click on the view button, which is going to take us back to the datasheet view. And we notice that now the new datasheet on here shows the duration field in the 5th column, which we've added on right here. And of course the records are now sorted in ascending order by the tour start date field. So we notice that the earliest tour start dates are up top, and then of course the latter ones are at the bottom. And then of course if 2 records have the same tour start date, they are further sorted by the price on there. So if we take a look at, maybe for an example, the 713s here. We see 713, 713, 713, 713. Well, of course, they're now sorted where the cheaper ones are on the top and the more expensive ones are on the bottom. Now, your next task is going to be replacing all occurrences of sightseeing with cultural in the category field. And to do that, we take a look at step 5, where it tells us that we want to click the Find button on the Home tab, which if the Home tab is not selected, you want to make sure you click on it. And then we click on the Find button here in the Find group. And then it tells us that we want to type in sightseeing in the Find What. Once we type that in, we want to click on the Replace tab. And of course notice that the sightseeing still remains in the Find What. Then in the Replace With on there, we want to type in cultural. And of course you can take a look on figure B-8 on page 35 to see the same image here that you're seeing on the screen right now. Once you have Find What, sightseeing, and Replace With cultural, you move on to step 6, where you can click on Replace All. And of course that's in the Find Replace dialog box. And of course it may ask you, do you want to continue? You want to click on Yes if it asks you that. If not, it's going to automatically do that. And then of course once it continues and it does that, it's still going to keep open the dialog box. Once that happens, you're just going to click on Cancel, and of course you'll notice that any occurrence, which if we take a look at the very top one on there, which did say sightseeing, has now been replaced with cultural, and then of course in the 3rd record has been replaced with cultural. Now of course if your find and replace effort did not work correctly, in this case you'll notice the undo button is active in this case. So if it didn't work correctly and if you still notice that there's a sightseeing that's on there, you can hit the undo button and repeat steps 5 and 6 again. Once you have that completed, you can go ahead and right click the Tours by Category Query tab and you can click on Close. In this case it will save the changes of the query Tours by Category, and we do want to say yes on there. And that concludes the information that's on pages Access 34 and 35. In the next video we're going to be filtering data.